For some time now, collectors have noticed that Mezco is starting to move away from some of their licensed properties. Instead, Mezco made the choice to bet on themselves and focus on their own staple of unique and newly created characters. They called this mishmash the Rumble Society. And today, we meet a new member. Greetings, fanboys and fangirls. Jared here with another Mezco 112 collective review from Fanboys Forever. And today we'll be having a very in-depth look at the brand new Atticus Doom. Now, just as I mentioned in my introduction, the Rumble Society is Mezco's way of introducing a myriad of original, unique characters. These characters have ranged from different variations of Gomez, their company mascot, to those inspired by culture and previous releases from the company, to the macabre, and this figure definitely falls into that latter category. But before we have an in-depth look at everything this figure has to offer, and there's a lot, trust me, I would simply ask that you please subscribe to the channel. We do all sorts of different Mezco reviews here on Fanboys Forever, as well as many other reviews and news videos. Also, be sure to like the video because it helps YouTube to share it out to other fans. So without further ado, here's my review of Atticus Doom. Much like other Rumble Society figures before it, he did include a little mini Metzit, and these guys are little grubs, as they call them, and they're kind of like miniature versions of Gomez, the company mascot. As you can see, I got one of the pink ones, which is kind of a rarity for me, so I was happy to get it. I have a huge collection of these. Rumble Society packaging is something that collectors have really grown accustomed to. It's just this black box with a gold clasp on the front. They've simply applied an Atticus Doom sticker, so nothing really new there. Instead, they use their new artwork for the little insert that's on the inside, and we get this cool piece of art of Atticus Doom himself. Now, something I'm not going to be able to really go into a lot of detail about here because it would make the review take forever is this incredibly cool comic that it included. There's all sorts of hilarious joke ads in here. There's also some really intriguing information about Atticus Doom himself, as well as Doc Nocturnal, so I highly suggest that you try to get a hold of this thing and read it. It's actually their best comic they've done. With that out of the way, let's focus on the figure. For as funny as it is to say, it sure does seem like Mezco loves their skull-headed characters. I suppose it's just a matter of personal taste for the company, but it seems like a whole lot of the characters and a whole lot of the accessory packs that they do even are all based around characters with skulls for heads, even the Black Skull Death Brigade. So it's really interesting to see them kind of continue this motif with yet another variation on that idea. So I thought it was at least worth mentioning, getting that out of the way. You can see that the figure is dressed in a trench coat that's not quite like the ones we've seen before, but it's a little familiar. He's also dressed in this cool turban. The skull is more of kind of a melted together skull with the mouth kind of looking misshapen, and when you read the comic and you see the character's origin, you'll definitely understand the way that he looks. Moving on down, you can see that the character is also wearing some gray slacks with just some nondescript black shoes, and the bottoms just have a little bit of tread sculpted onto one side. Black gloves, and from the back you can see that there's even some fasteners there around the cuffs of the coat. Not only that, you can actually undo these, and they actually have a posing wire in them, so you can get some dramatic kind of looks, I suppose, with these flowing. But it also gives you the chance, if you want to tie these together, so you can get all sorts of different looks, and I'm sure that you're able to use this fastener. I'm not absolutely crazy over trying to thread together something like this, but I suppose you could. Opening the trench coat, you can see the rest of the costume even better. Now, I really like the little fasteners that's on the waistcoat here, the vest, whatever you want to call it. And he's also wearing a red sweater. It's very easy to take off the trench coat. I always like to go ahead and just remove the hands. The trench coat just easily slips off. Often, I'm not too big of a fan of how these figures look once you take off the outer layer, but this time is a rare exception to that rule. I really love the way that Atticus looks without the coat. The red sweater looks really, really cool with the gray pants, and I just think it's a great look for the character, so I don't mind that at all. You can also see that around his neck, he has a scarf. At first, I didn't even know if this was meant to be taken off, But under this, you'll just find the rest of the turtleneck. However, I will admit that I am going to keep it just like this. It's true that I've seen pictures of the figure with the scarf kind of unfurled, and that looks really nice too, but I just think this is a little bit better and gives him more of a unique look. So I plan on keeping it like this. Now what's cool though is the turban is removable. Once you do so, you can see that Atticus has a visible brain right here, which is really cool. You can even pop the brain right out of his head. And this little thing is apparently the philosopher's oculus, and it gives him forbidden occult knowledge and helps him understand the ununderstandable, apparently, according to the comic. And this goes right back in. At first, I wasn't even sure it was removable. It's actually a very good illusion, and it looks almost like it's a part of the sculpt. And I especially like that glossy coat all over the brain to make it look kind of wet, so it's kind of neat. Mounted to the front of the turban is the Leviathan particle, carved out of the kidney of the great beast itself, so that's pretty cool and gives Atticus some really neat powers. As will become obvious as we look at all the different facets of the figure, this is definitely an H.P. Lovecraft inspired character. You're going to see that a lot of his powers are sourced directly from those old writings. So it's really interesting just how much trouble they went to make that a reality as we look at all the different parts of the figure. One integral part of the figure are the hands that switch out as you go. All of the right hands include this eye that is on the back. Upon first glance, you might think this is just painted, but that's actually a sculpted indention in there, so it's really nice. Not only does he include this grasping hand, but he also includes a fisted hand and a completely open right hand as well, which we'll look at later with an effects piece. His left hands are just the regular black gloved hands. Here's the open one, a grasping one, and a fist. But that's by far not the only left hands that he possesses. As a part of Atticus's powers, his left hand is transformable into a myriad of different forms. This is referred to as the Medusa hand, and it's quite obvious to see why. You can see some very, very detailed little rubbery snakes here, with even the eyes painted and the scales sculpted in. Even at the bottoms, you can see that they have changed the paint slightly, giving it more of a yellow tone. As one might assume, he uses this hand to turn people into stone. One of the most interesting choices of left hand is this nebulous claw here. This claw comes from the crab Nebula, and he's able to use it to crush mystical and non-mystical objects according to the comic. And it just has a great look to it and really brings out some of the red in the ascot here. For this, the cindered palm, there's actually two different elements making up this effect. For the actual hand itself here, you can see all the kind of burnt flesh and even some translucence in the fingers there. And then there's this flame effect that fits directly over it. Looking at it from this side, it's also quite a sight to behold. And it's really one of Mezco's stronger flame effects that they've ever done. So I was very impressed by this one. But that's not all there is for this effect. You can also utilize this, which are kind of these burning eyeballs. After you pop them in, it gives the figure a really cool look, and definitely a very different look from the standard version, especially when you put it with the cindered palm here, and you've got something very distinct. This is as good a time as any is to show his staff, referred to in the comic as the Goblin Shillag, and I think I'm saying that right, but who knows. It's supposed to be the skull of a goblin with some engravings on it giving him magical powers. He can hold the staff in a few different ways using several different hands. Here's just one way that you can do it. And here it is in his left hand. He has a much tighter clasp on this hand as one of his alternates, and so it looks really good when held up like this. And I think it's a very, very nice look with the figure, and it scales very well. So I wasn't lying when I said this was definitely an H.P. Lovecraft themed figure, because we have our old buddy Cthulhu here represented with the left hand. Of course, you can get one of Cthulhu's tentacles and he can teleport it to the left arm. Not only that though, but he even has the ability to turn into a smaller version of Cthulhu himself. And this is referred to as the Mantle of Madness, and this is the Cthulhu fraction. And what's great about this is the exquisite detail they put in here. With this figure, Mezco was able to kind of have its cake and eat it too, because they got to do this cool kind of occult private eye, but also sort of do a 1/12 scale Cthulhu figure as well. So I'm very impressed by this head. just the little details in it. Even on the back, you can see spikes coming from it. This is one of the better Cthulhu sculpts I've seen in the action figure market, and as you guys know, there's no shortage of them. Would be tempting to keep him in this look if the other one wasn't so cool. Another accessory he includes is this interesting shroud of mist that goes right around his neck, and it's a neat look for the figure. Definitely different than anything they've tried in any of their other previous releases. He also has some different spell effects. You can see here that Cthulhu's head is visible along with all sorts of other different symbols. You can mount this to one of these little clips that go around his wrist. It's even posable right there. Using the clips, you can position it right above the figure's hand like this and angle it, and it looks like he's casting a spell, so that's really cool. He also includes this one, and you can do the same thing. It comes with another clip, so you can have him dual wielding spells. Interestingly, this is not his only trick. I had to look at some pictures to figure out how this worked exactly, but you have one portal as if he is teleporting his hand somewhere else, and this just clips directly onto the wrist post. Once you have it secured, you can see it's almost like his hand is disappearing into another dimension, and through the magic of action figures, it is. That's where this comes in. We have a display stand leading up to this little adapter piece, which then leads to this that's simply plugged into it. It is an actual tailored sleeve, and you can see there's a little bit of slop right there, but really it's a very impressive feat that you have this tailored sleeve that matches the sleeve of the figure, and then you have a post on it that's fully articulated that you can move around. It has a hinge and everything, and you can use any of the alternate hands on there. To me, this is wildly impressive. How cool is it that it's like his hand is disappearing over here and then it's extended with nothing between it. Sure, you can see the little posing post right there, but with any photography, you could probably easily edit that out. I'm just very impressed that they even thought to do it. Not only that, but we have yet another alternate hand piece. We have this giant Cthulhu tentacle that even has an integrated posing wire on the inside of it. The wire ends about right here because it gets a little too thin to sustain something like that. But with all the give you get right here, you can definitely have a lot of fun with this. And it's very impressive to see all these barnacles and things sculpted on one side and painted, which is especially noteworthy. Another interesting accessory that the figure includes is this Grimoire here, and it's a very impressive volume. They have full sculpting, full detailing all the way around, completely painted, and it's just amazing looking with the gold clasps and things, and a little lock on the side. All you have to do is pull it open, and just like the previous release of Dr. Fate, you can see that there is a fully detailed book on the inside of it with pictures on each and every page. I'm truly impressed that this is even possible in this scale. You can't hardly keep it open, but it's amazing that this is even a thing. And I can't really believe that it's even happened. So, color me very, very impressed. What's interesting though is that they make sure to include this little adapter for any of those posing posts that we looked at earlier. You can use this to rest the spine of the book inside, and then the book can kind of float on that post. All you have to do is take out the hand, and with a little adapter piece we talked about earlier, you simply plug this in instead. Then you can have the Grimoire just kind of floating there as if it's coming to him from his occult library. So it's quite a neat effect. And then we have the usual suspects of his flight arm right here, and the little 112 collective baggie to hold all of his accessories, as well as a very nice display stand. Sometimes I don't care very much about these things, but this is one of those cases where the artwork is just gorgeous, and they've done a much better job in the last few years of making sure that the display stands look appropriately impressive for the figures that they're displaying. This definitely has a Mike Mignola feel to it, like some of his old Hellboy artwork. We'll go ahead and check out Atticus's articulation. So the head can do exactly what you would think it would with left and right. It can go up a little bit and down a little bit. Even without the ascot here, it can just go about like this. So with the arms, you get full articulation with it being able to do just about anything you want it to do. But as I've said in previous Mezco releases, if you want to keep this coat on, you'll just have to twist the sleeve as you go up, just to give that fabric a little more give. So you can do pretty well what you want in terms of putting it up there. Putting the arms out, he can go even further than 90 degrees. You can also do a double joint there at the elbow, and the trench coat does a great job of kind of flexing with him on that, so that won't be a problem at all. There's also a rotation there at the upper bicep. There is full rotation at the hands with a hinge right there at the wrist. He does have a diaphragm joint. You don't get a whole lot out of it because of the waistcoat, but it's there with you being able to lean forward about that much and lean back about that much. So it's definitely there, but it's not going to light the world on fire. You can do a little bit of side to side. There is what feels like a waist joint in there, but you can't do a tremendous amount without kind of messing all this up a little. It's worth noting there's a really nice belt in there as well. With the kicks, the pants are very, very flexible since they're just cloth pants and you don't have to worry about all that pleather stuff that they do sometimes, which is a big relief for me. And you can get a terrific kick. Not only that, but he does have double jointed knees, and so it can do just about anything you need it to. Also, there is a rotation there at the upper thigh, and down here there's a huge amount of range at the ankles, with the shoe being able to go all sorts of different ways. So you're able to get those wide stances and keep him flat-footed. So poses like this are pretty much no problem and required like 2 tries for me to get, just literally a few seconds. He can do the splits a little bit. You can pretty well adjust the pants to where he can go just about as far as you can. I could have went a lot further than that. There's an integrated posing wire in the trench coat here. So right around here you can do pretty well anything you want to in terms of wind effects. And I think it looks great. There really doesn't feel like anything that you need to be on the lookout for with this figure in terms of quality, because everything feels nice and sturdy and nothing ever felt like it was going to break on me. And the outfit is just as sturdy as the figure, so that's definitely a plus. So even though it's probably not been quite as long as I'm thinking, I feel like I've been seeing this guy teased for a very, very long time, years even. Ever since we saw that first piece of artwork way back in the day, I've been very curious about what this guy was going to turn out like. And I have to say, I'm not disappointed in the least. Mezco has come up with another incredibly original and inventive character, and yet another that has a skull for a head. Somehow or another, they keep reinventing this trope in interesting and cool ways, and this is no exception to that. When I first saw the original sketch of the character, I thought, maybe they're going a little far with this, and we already have Doc Nocturnal, maybe we don't need another character with a skull for a head. But wow, they were really able to make this guy stand on his own 2 feet and do something just very original. Whether it's them pushing the limits of what's possible with the accessories, or just basically giving you a whole other figure's worth of accessories, you almost would want to buy 2 of these guys just so that you could pose him out in all of his different looks simultaneously. It's really that impressive. If I know Mezco, then chances are we'll be getting another version of this guy, maybe sometime in Slugfest Emporium in some sort of repaint or special edition with some different accessories. But we also know that they've already announced an expansion pack just a couple of days ago. It took me a while to get this guy. I believe it was almost lost in transit down there on the West Coast. Finally got to me just a couple of days ago, so it was kind of a long wait, but I'm glad to have him in hand. I feel that it was definitely worth the wait. This guy is pure fun and pure enjoyment. Not only that, but he comes with an absolutely dynamite comic book. In the past, the comics have either felt too short, too slight, or sometimes too overbearing. But this one, it's baby bear soup. It is pretty well perfect. Not only does it include a fascinating, well-written, and well-drawn origin story for Atticus Doom here, but includes some incredible Doc Nocturnal material as well, making it a must-read for fans of the Mezco Rumble Society universe. The vintage ads are alone worth looking into this book, so make sure you do. As for the figure, well, what you're seeing right now pretty well speaks for itself, and it plays and displays just as well as it looks. So I wholeheartedly recommend that you track one of these guys down. Now, unfortunately, I do believe he's been waitlisted on the Mezco site. However, when there's been enough demand lately, it does seem like Mezco is willing to do a second production run on in-demand figures, kind of like with what they did with the Hood's Vapor figure. So who knows, it would probably be worth it to hop on that wait list if you're interested. And of course, keep an eye out on the Slugfest Emporium, because they may be doing another version of this guy, and who knows, and maybe a version that looks even cooler than this. Originally, the MSRP on this guy was $95, not including the shipping and handling. This is pretty well a going rate for the Rumble Society figures, and I definitely feel that this guy, even more than usual, earned that price tag with the myriad of accessories and interchangeable options. Alright friends, I sure do hope you've enjoyed the review today. Seems like I keep looking around, trying to make sure that I actually covered all of his accessories because there's just so many, but I think we have, and I certainly appreciate you guys sticking around for the whole video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on all of our other great Mezco content. We have a lot of Masters of the Universe and Batman content here on the channel as well. Be sure to like the video. It really does help us out, and it helps it to be shared, and pretty well just helps my ego, so you know, there's that. Also, I sure do hope all of you guys are doing great out there, and it means the world to us that you stopped by to spend a little bit of time with the fanboys. But as I always say, God bless you and yours. That's right, even you, Atticus. And I'll see you on Fanboys Forever. Fanboy out.